What is something that 90% of people don't seem to understand? Fixing the root cause of something instead of punishing the end result. Like when the record companies started suing music fans for downloading, instead of publishing their own music on a website for us to buy. When someone asks you for a source, they aren't calling you a liar. They want to know how you know what you know. Taking everything at everyone's word gets us into trouble. Trust, but verify. Yelling at someone who is trying to help you doesn't make them more helpful. Not in relation to helping someone, but one of my dad's friends is a character. He always finds himself in hilarious situations. He was driving somewhere. His car was stopped at a red light. The light turned green. His car cut out and he couldn't get it to start again. He spent a few minutes trying to get it to start. It wasn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, the guy in the car behind him started beeping at him. So as he's trying to get his car going again, he has this constant beeping behind him. After a few minutes he walked over to the guy who was beeping and said, "Let's swap places, will we? You try and get my car started, I'll sit here and honk at you." Standing closer to me in the checkout line at any store won't make our purchase go any faster. I had a neck breather behind me in the store today. She bumped me several times in the butt with her purse. The whole time, she complained how slow things were. After about 10 minutes in line, karma smacked her in the face. She was in the wrong line for returns. Traffic works best as a team sport. Aggressive or unpredictable driving causes people to have to brake at unexpected times, which causes more slowdowns and increases everyone's commute time. Situational awareness, being conscious of more than just you and your little world. Knowing what's going on around you could save your life, people. Availability heuristic. It's easier to overestimate the likelihood of getting attacked by a shark, struck by lightning, aircraft crash, etc. because it's really easy to bring to mind an example of those events happening. Therefore, we tend to skew the likelihood of various events occurring. True. I'm from Hawaii. People who visit are so scared of sharks, but you're much more likely to have a coconut fall on your head. I don't tend to fear most of those things. But is there a difference from having a healthy respect for them? The likelihood of lightning hitting me on my ladder in a thunderstorm is pretty low. But is the low likelihood worth the risk? Caution stands for a bit of reason, right? Not defending phobias, just pondering the thought of it, coming from a person who actually has had several lightning strike encounters. I think the problem is more coming from the other direction. Not that people fear those things, but that they don't have the same fear of things much more likely to kill them. People will avoid the beach because of a shark attack, but then talk on the phone while driving. They'll avoid airplanes because of fear of crashing, but then smoke a pack of cigarettes. We'll stock up on ammo and canned food to survive the apocalypse, but forget to buy smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. If I have headphones in, I really don't want to talk to you. Especially on a plane. Though I work at one specific store as an associate, it cannot be expected of me that I know every sale in the store. I know the inventory of every other nearby location of this store. I am an automaton or robot, and that I shouldn't be allowed to have a drink of water from a personal water bottle because God forbid that a retail slave shows some form of humanity and need access to water. A customer at my store complained about that last one today. They complained that I drank water in front of them while wearing my uniform. How dare I, indeed? My store has the same policy. No water bottles on us while we're working because of complaints. Like, who benefits from this? I've started taking plenty of trips to the water fountain, which is allowed. Waste time, but what else am I supposed to do when it's easy to get thirsty dizzy from standing and walking around for hours at a time? The First Amendment of the Constitution protects you from the government interfering in your freedom of speech. It does not, however, protect from you from public opinion. If the crowd lets you know they don't like what you're saying, you're not being oppressed. The crowd has the right to express their opinion as well. Also, the First Amendment does not apply to corporations. If you're an at-will employee, and most people are, you can be fired for having blue hair, being left-handed, wearing a Bernie 2020 pin, or almost any other reason an employer has. As long as it's not a few specific things like discrimination, age, race, gender, or retaliation, your employer can give you a pink slip. That it's not hard to just be kind. Kind to others, hold the door open for someone, just let that car merge, kind to your environment, pick up some trash, leave an area how you found it, and kind to yourself. I used to think this was just common sense, but I realized there's no such thing. Using a blinker before you turn. Also, using a blinker before you start slowing down. Tailgating will never make traffic move faster, ever. Unless you collide with the vehicle in front and propel it forward with the power. You don't need an antibiotic for a cold. You are going to cause a superbug. Best medicine for a cold is time. My parents used to say, a cold will last for 2 weeks, but if you go to the doctor it will last for 14 days. How do we make it last a fortnight? The longer you keep me on the phone, the longer it will take me to complete the task you're asking me to do. Oh, I had this when I worked the IT help desk once. The guy was yelling at me about a server being down, and after 5 minutes or so I had to say, "Sir, you're talking to me on a wired telephone. I need to leave my desk to speak to an engineer to fix this. By prolonging this phone call and complaining about this outage, you are actually preventing me from doing anything about it." He said, "Oh, right, I'll let you get on with it then." And I had a cordless phone 3 days later. How a thermostat works. Feel a little chilly? Crank it to 90. The room feels like a sauna an hour later? 60. Somehow it never occurs to anyone to just set the damn thing to a sane temperature and let it do its job. Targeting a specific muscle group will not make you lose fat in that particular area. You will burn calories and potentially lose fat from your body in general, provided you are not consuming more calories than you are burning, but doing sit-ups will not burn only stomach fat, squats won't burn just leg fat, push-ups won't burn just arm fat. You cannot target specific fat. It's okay to have an opinion that a lot of people don't agree with. True, but a lot of people will hand-wave fact because of their opinion. You can have different thoughts about a topic, but if you start saying the earth is flat, and start saying that thinking it's round is just my opinion, that's just being ignorant. Don't show up 10 minutes before closing and expect the salespeople to be glad to see you. That night shift people sleep all day and work all night, and that we aren't lazy for it. I can't tell you how many times I've had to hear from day shift, "You have all day to do whatever you want. It's not fair," and arguing when trying to make an appointment that no, I can't come in at 10 a.m. I go to bed at 5 a.m. I can't just go to bed earlier or sleep later. How would you like it if I expected you to do something for me at 2 a.m. when I'm awake? Or the fact I drink in the morning. It's my Friday and I got off work at 7 a.m. I'll be in bed before noon. You can go home and have a beer, but you look at me wrong for doing the exact same thing. Introversion and shyness are not the same thing, nor are they mutually exclusive. Introversion is where you mentally recharge when you're alone. Shyness is when you're nervous to interact with others, which can, affect both introverts and extroverts. Social anxiety is also not the same as those two. People use the word chemicals only for things that are harmful, like my child was exposed to chemicals and now it's sick, but they don't understand that everything is a chemical. This may just be me, BC, I'm a huge science nerd, but it really annoys me that humans are innately awful at probability and matters of scale. That this leads to untold destruction through inefficiencies in the sense that the world could have been so much better. The US war on terror has cost trillions, yet only a few thousand US citizens have died. We could have invested in enormous infrastructure programs with that money, increasing quality of life for hundreds of millions for decades. Or with a tiny fraction of it we could have provided HIV medication to the millions of HIV+ people worldwide without access. Or we could have multiplied worldwide cancer research funding by a factor of 10. Or we could have multiplied NASA's budget by a factor of 50. The list goes on. Another example. Some people don't vaccinate their children because they're afraid it'll cause autism. They believe anecdotal horror stories over controlled, rigorous, exhaustive, and utterly unambiguous statistical analysis saying there is no link. More examples. Your fear of getting eaten by a shark is greater than your fear of dying while driving to the beach. Traffic fatalities are one of the leading causes of death, yet we haven't pushed hard for automated vehicles. Someone's intake of calories being 5% too high every day for a year causes them to gain, say, 20 pounds, and when they diet they think the problem was some specific food. Believe it or not, you are not the only person in the entire city who has ordered a pizza for delivery on Super Bowl Sunday. It may be a few minutes late. I work for a pizza chain and have dealt with many very angry people for this. A lot of choices aren't mutually exclusive. People tend to think it's either X or Y, when most of the time that's not the case. It could be both. It could even be either. There can be ways to achieve both goals, or there might be a different way that doesn't achieve either one, but is a more satisfying solution. If people get out of the mindset of X or Y and learn to compromise, there will be a lot more solutions and opportunities available. Detox, diets. Your body is already designed to remove harmful substances from your system. You are most likely feeling healthier because you're consuming less processed foods. If it gets you to be more conscious of what you are eating and generally eat healthier, I'm all for it. Just make sure you aren't pouring money down the drain. Education is more important after you're out of school than when you're in it. You have an entire adult life to learn more about the world around you and keep your old knowledge updated and current. If you treat your last day of school like the last day of your education, you will lead an empty, confused, angry life. 90% of the people in the USA don't seem to understand that metrics is much easier in the long run and for all future generations. Celsius, liters, kilometers, A4 paper, even the 24-hour clock. This is why scientists, military, manufacturing, and 99% of the world uses it. What is something that people don't seem to understand? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.